And a bit of a juggle up on the shows. We're going to cover election results tonight because it's been a dull week in New Zealand's parliament. They're still in recess, and the last lot of footage is from about 4 weeks ago. But the interesting thing that comes out of here is that there have been 3 elections in the world. The 2 general elections that are very big and very, well known what the results are, and the hidden Easter egg that the New Zealand public need to look at is what's happened in the UK. And it ain't quite so rosy, with Reform Party gaining 677 new councillors. And I'm not sure if that's what people wanted to hear. So, how is everyone?
I'm doing pretty good. Last night I watched the Singaporean elections as well. That was another election that was held. It was being held at the same time as the Australian one, so I had 2 elections running at the same time. As everyone knows, Labour won in Australia. I don't know if people know this, but surprisingly enough, the Labour equivalent party in Singapore, the Workers' Party, actually did better than I thought they would. Because they're a very conservative country. The Conservatives won by a landslide, as they always do. But what I found really interesting was how much they won by, and it wasn't by much in each region. So, yeah, it's very interesting seeing that, okay, the younger population is coming along and they're voting for more progressive things.
Yeah, you're right, Laura. I think that is quite interesting, actually, in Singapore. I mean, I've spent a bit of time living over there. I've got family that lives over there.
Okay.
And democracy is kind of a new concept in that part of the world. Most people just tend to vote for the government. And that is an interesting one. But I certainly spent a bit of time looking at the Australian election. Canadian election is a very interesting result. But let's have a bit of a chat about it.
Yeah, certainly. And do you believe Christopher Luxon could lose Botany and David Seymour could potentially lose Epsom after seeing what happened to Pierre Poilievre, I think if that's how you say his name, and Peter Dutton not just losing the election, but losing their seats?
Yeah, well, I mean, that result really got me excited around the Dixon result. Not only did Dutton lose his seat, but he lost his seat to a disabled candidate and a big supporter of the NDIS and the Australian health system. So, that one really, I was clapping for that one, and I think that's a particularly positive result, not only for the ALP, but for disabled people around the world who think they want to put their hand up and get themselves involved in politics. So that one was a real highlight, that one was great.
Yeah. So as far as Epsom is concerned, it's going to all depend on how pissed off the rich people are living there with Seymour. With Luxon, same with Luxon's neck of the wood as well. They're quite wealthy areas where you've got people that have like high income jobs and stuff like that have business interests. So they're probably more likely to keep their seats. But yeah, I mean, it's a year away. Anything could happen.
Well, exactly. And I mean, considering with the shake-up of the electoral boundaries in New Zealand at the next general election, it's going to be a very interesting push-pull, see what ends up happening where.
I just want to bring up this point here by Blake. Now, this is very interesting because I wouldn't say a left-wing party, but what I have noticed, and I saw this in the Singaporean elections, the Conservative Party there, that's in charge of the ship and have been for about half a century now, they came out very strongly against Trump's tariffs. And, they were proposing more worker-friendly policies, which I thought was really interesting seeing from the Conservatives. So it's like, oh, okay. So they literally threw Trump under the bus and called him uncivil over in Singapore. So, yeah, I wonder if something like that is happening too in places like the UK and other people like going, oh, shit, Trump's kind of like election poison. We better get the fuck away from him.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like that, considering it does feel like I've never seen a US president literally tank foreign English-speaking country elections before. It's like it's not something that I've seen happen. Literally, like he's not just affecting his own country; he's literally putting poison all over the place. It's I don't know how you sit there and say it.
Yeah, you wouldn't like to think that having Trump in the mix is good for your political fortune, but I think certainly in the Canada case, it's been net positive for the Liberals in Canada, and I don't know. It certainly played into the ALP campaign in terms of painting Dutton as being too close to Trump. There was a really good union campaign in Victoria. I think it also played out in New South Wales as well around don't trust Dutton. So he has played an outsized role in quite a few elections. So it'll be just interesting to see what happens in other elections, potentially also in our national election coming up next year. Whether that happens here as well.
Just a thought that popped into my head. I know Friendly Geordie's had quite an impact on the Australian election.
Yes.
I wonder if BHN's going to have the same impact with the Labour Party here in New Zealand. That's going to be really interesting to watch.
It will be seen.
I think so.
Yeah, and also, will they not make the same mistakes they did at the last election? Because I watched some of the mistakes that were made, and it's like, are you trying to deliberately lose the election?
Speaking of Australia's election results, there was a really interesting. I can't quite remember the name off the top of my head, but the seat flipped, or it went back to a Green Party candidate in Australia, which I thought was really interesting. A place that was historically liberal. What's that?
Is it the seat of Melbourne?
No, further north. But
so it's one of the Queensland ones, because there was one. Kevin Rudd's old seat went green at the last election. It's gone, I think, either Labor or Independent. But there is one of the there's been one. There is one seat. There was one seat that was tossing up all over the night, which I think it might be the one that has successfully stayed.
I'll just open up the election map.
There were two seats
screen it to us.
There were two seats in Brisbane that last federal election went to the Greens, but this time flipped back to Labor, and that was an interesting phenomenon to watch those Green seats flip back to Labor.
Yep. Let's see if I can find it. Still finding it, guys.
That's all right. I do. Oh, that one doesn't have. That one's got summaries. That hasn't got all the parties in that one.
I think
I have got results on there, but they're not down to. I can get the electorate ones if I'll just flick on the shared screen on my computer, and it's
I'll link it to you. The one that I'm looking at is ABC.
I think if you really want to highlight one of the issues that really separated out the electorate in terms of supporting Labor and allowed the Greens to be not so supported, it was housing, particularly in Australia. The way that the Conservatives over there said that the people had to dip into their super funds in order to gain access to their first home deposit. That was really not well received at all.
Yeah.
And the Greens had a completely different approach around housing, around focusing on rental controls, and that was very popular, but people just didn't support it ultimately at the ballot box.
Laura, is it the seat of Brisbane? Because that's one that's very close with LNP. With LNP, that's Liberal National Party. That's the coalition.
Yeah, so it's the one with Maggie Forrest versus Elizabeth Watson Brown. I thought that race was very interesting, especially if you look at the history of that area.
Cedar Ryan.
Yeah.
So that one's got... Okay, so we'll just change the share tab on there. Oh, yes, I see what you mean on that one of...
Did you scroll down to past winning parties? You're going to find it very interesting how things have shifted over the years in that area. And unfortunately, I haven't dug into the reasons why, but I thought it was very fascinating.
So I just wanted to pick up on this question from Simon around the teal independence, because I think that's a really interesting issue. And we saw more teal independence this time round. We saw more independents picking up seats this time round, and I think that's a growing phenomenon that we'll see over there in Australia. And they will sit on the crossbench. The crossbench will swell this time, and that'll make an interesting dynamic in the lower house, potentially also in the upper house as well. And that'll be an interesting dynamic for Labor, who's ultimately has a majority in the lower house to negotiate. And yeah, the teal independents will form a greater part of the parliament this time round. So thanks for raising that one, Simon. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So seat of Ryan, but it's interesting that has the results that last one Julian Simmons won it, but this time Elizabeth Watson Brown is winning the same seat after with the redistributions of second preference, second and third, fourth, and whatever countless preference votes. But yeah, that's interesting where that ends up going to.
Yeah, I thought out of all the races in Australia, that one was probably the most interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you've got essentially a conservative candidate up against quite a progressive one. It's not usual you see that kind of a swing in an area that's historically voted in favour of conservatism.
Yeah.
So that candidate there, Maggie Forrest, is that candidate related to Andrew Forrest, who's the mining magnate? I'm not sure.
Possibly, I'd have to look into that.
Asking the question, yeah.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order Paper Podcast. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Guide, The Order Paper Podcast.